I'm the founder and CEO of Zeebu. Simply speaking, we enable institutional payments all over the world and settlements for telecom companies. But today, we're going to talk about yields. You want to take a picture? You can take it. Go ahead. We're going to talk a bit about yield. You know, what has the Web3 ecosystem been seeing in different types of yield? There's real world yield. There's points, and more points, right? The points meta has been going for a couple months now. And I think a bunch of us are lost on what's coming next. So a bit about the agenda today. We're going to look at the Zeebu protocol case study, protocol revenues, who the participants are, and you know how between the protocol revenues and the participants and our revenue share model equates to real world yield, right? And then additionally, we're going to talk a bit about Zeebu and restaking. Important components of restaking, as you already know, would be consumer of economic security and providers of economic security. So just to talk about a few stats, where we're covering real world yield and the services that Zeebu renders. Zeebu protocol, as a protocol, as a company, as a service provider, so far we have done more than 83,000 invoices on-chain settled. You can always go to BSE Scan and look at all of the history yourself. We've done over $4 billion in transaction settlements since July 2023, when the platform went live, until today. And we have an active 105 institutional telco clients around the world doing this. Now, in the process, we have a deflationary model. So we have accumulated 956 million ZBU tokens within the burning pool. And throughout this process, we have given out about $81 million in protocol revenue. Now, the protocol revenue clearly comes from those institutional clients that we have onboarded. I'll go over that in a bit. Now, Zeebu is essentially a decentralized B2B payment processor, right? Our customers are merchants that utilize the Zeebu protocol for invoice settlements. Because, I was on my way here, I was actually talking to my driver. I asked him, how much do you pay when sending money to China? He pays 10% in Forex conversion and payment fees, which is absolutely insane. Doesn't make any sense. Now, this is a bigger hindrance for institutions because they're doing transactions in volume, right? Imagine sending, obviously they have more efficient ways to do it, but imagine sending $1 million and paying 100 grand in fees. This is not the case in most, transactions, but even, $1,000 in fees would be a lot. And for it to be delayed by, let's say, 2 to 3 weeks. Doesn't make any sense for them. So today, merchants are primarily telco clients within the Zeebu protocol who perform invoice settlements with their counterparties.
Yeah, and all of this is done thanks to the three kinds of economic participants. These are the independent service providers in the three categories: the delegators, the deployers, and liquidity providers. Delegators are passive stakers of ZBU tokens. They are delegating and picking, curating the deployers. Deployers are picked in a random robin, but according to weight and amount of the ZBU tokens they self-stake on themselves, and how much delegators delegate to me if I'm a deployer. And based on this amount of total ZBU stake that I self-stake, plus how much was delegated to me, based on that, I have a specific share of a settlement volume that is I'm servicing. And on the next slide, we have more description and comparison. What's the difference between these three roles? And it's a drill down into what their role and function, and then what do they really earn. And effectively, the merchants, for example, telecom carriers, operators who use Zeebu to settle, to send invoices basically cross-border, for example, they're paying a fee which is then being split up between three kinds of participants which are delegators, deployers, and liquidity providers. So they all provide valuable service. Any one of you can become any of these roles that are all open, right? Yeah, there are some requirements. You need to stake, but this is permissionless, decentralized network where anyone can participate. And thanks to these participants, this whole B2B processor that Raj talked about, that's how technical works under the hood. Let's keep going.
So how are we going to generate more real-world yield without busting, right? We have seen in the past that, minting doesn't exactly work. It's not sustainable. There needs to be commercial value in every participant that's earning something to a degree, right? What I'm looking at when I say real-world yield is, most importantly, stable returns. We must leverage real-world assets like telecom, business loan, real estate, and asset tokenization as a whole to bring in real-world yield, and at the same time enable real-world businesses to solve problems, right? Problems such as liquidity, right? Today there's factoring services all around the world where businesses have a high cost basis just to be able to remit money, transact money, and settle money. Zeebu's right now primarily focused on telecoms as a whole because telecoms over time the margins have gone down significantly, simply because infrastructure keeps getting more and more expensive, more and more competition keeps coming into the market, and today they cannot afford to pay high conversion fees and high banking fees. So that is exactly what Zeebu is trying to solve using blockchain technology for the telcos because they have a lot of need for it. But that doesn't mean that it can't be a copy and paste solution for multiple sets of industries around the world. Another thing that we're currently working on is AI-enabled native credit rating system, right? Now, settlements is one piece. Another piece is the delay in payments on a contractual basis, right? Invoicing is normally done on 14, 30, 45, 90-day basis, and companies have low working capital, right? Now, today, factoring options around the world are very, very expensive. If it's insured factoring, which is rare, you need a AAA counterparty, and you're probably paying around 14 to 18% in interest just to borrow. If it's uninsured, it can go upward of 20, 30%. Which is a bit ridiculous. And uninsured factoring can be risky for the borrower because there's no sanctity in being able to pay that much interest. And additionally, it's risky for the liquidity providers, right? Because what is the data set backing to be able to provide that liquidity for the factoring? So we are enabling a AI-based credit rating system within our platform because we have native data of transactions, invoicing, and settlement against those invoicing. The data set is able to create a credit rating system that's a lot more sane, and we're working with institutions all around the world to provide factoring services against that data set. And most importantly, what Zeebu does is we make TradFi meet DeFi. Today, there's plenty of DeFi solutions out there. They're very important to us. And enabling the Web3 industry as a whole, but we're lacking bridges between Web2 and Web3, right? Institutions that are mostly focused, that mostly have Web2 businesses, they're large enterprises, and that's a lot of missing liquidity that we could have in Web3 as a whole. And so Zeebu is enabling that bridge between the two. So now, in order to do a larger integration after we have tested our POC, onboarded 105 institutional clients, and done over $4 billion in transactions, we're launching the Zeebu protocol, wherein we are enabling more real business demand and real growth through B2B adoption of telcos, and additionally, revenue driven by real businesses consuming a service and not just speculation. So pretty much getting fundamental value towards the service and not just launching a token and hoping that people will play around with it. And in order to do this, instead of getting credit lines, onboarding other institutions, going through a very difficult and to a degree senseless route, we want to go on a DAO-powered revenue sharing base, right? So we currently earn about 200 basis points from every single transaction in order to enable more ecosystem participants that Renat mentioned earlier, we are repatriating 1.4% of that fee. It's real-world yield. We collected $81 million worth towards the protocol, and we're projecting to do a little bit over $280 million over the next year. So in order to do this, we're enabling revenue share from payment processing fees. We're building the first decentralized B2B payments processor, and we are using the yield from actual token use and not emissions. So real revenue is equal to high APYs and no supply dilution, which is the most important part.
And now on the topic of restaking. So we at Zeebu believe that the shared economic security is the future, and it's extremely capital efficient way to both provide economic security and consume economic security. And we're currently performing research on how Zeebu can participate in restaking as a consumer and as a provider. Because Zeebu accumulates quite a bit of both valuable assets, liquidity, and various forms of stake tokens. Most of them are ERC20s, right? And this is exactly what can be restaked as a provider. And as a consumer, there are multiple mechanisms that still need to be automated, and there might be a good candidates to become actively validated services. So if you're interested in integration of Zeebu into your favorite restaking project, come find us. We'd love to hear your ideas. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.